Hi, thanks for joining me. It is Thursday, the 5th of August, a little after 11 p.m. Sorry to be late. We're still figuring out the kinks of this. And so last night was our first night, and I read a little bit from the sixth book, Walkerville Desires, called Renaissance. And in that book, the piece that I read last night, I talked a little bit about the Asian American experience during World War II, about Executive Order 9022, where the Asians, Japanese, during World War II, about Executive Order 9022, where the...
Go ahead.
I'm kind of... I can't figure out where I've...
Go ahead. I'll have it for you in just a
Okay, it's...
tick.
So, okay, I'm not quite sure what you're doing. Am I supposed to be talking?
Yeah, continue. You were talking about executive order.
Okay, so I'm seeing my voice, and I can't hear myself.
That's because of the delay.
So let's not show myself. Let me just get to my script,
I'm gonna get it
please.
for you right now.
Yeah, and if I could have the mouse back, that would be great.
Okay. No, you can't just yet. I'm sorry.
That's not the script.
Okay. Stand by.
It is the last one. It's the last one. It says document 2. Yes.
Okay. So go ahead and explain.
If you would open it up, please, all the way.
Okay.
Okay. And can I have the mouse back?
Sure. Go ahead. I have to do some things on another machine. You just press on. Live.
All right. So this is what I'm reading tonight. It's sort of a continuation of the Paz and Jerry story. Paz, her name is Topaz, and her mother named her after the Topaz relocation camp that her ancestors were taken to. And her Japanese name is Aiko, A-I-K-O, and that means love child. And so you can get an idea of Paz's life. She was named after the relocation camp, and Aiko, she was a love child. She didn't know who her father was, and so that came to light when I read last night. And so here's more of Jerry and Paz's relationship developing. Jerry hesitated. Holding a large Ziploc of frozen vegetable, she turned to Paz. "I'm glad you've come home." Paz smiled to no one in particular. Her heart soared. She was happy, sitting and watching her mother's natural fluidity as she continued with dinner preparations. Paz knew that she had made the right decision. She had missed this, sitting in the kitchen, watching her mother's ballet. Jerry moved with comfort born out of knowing what she excelled at, believing in her talents. Paz couldn't remember seeing her mother sit still for very long. She did everything this way. Now in her early 50s, she still worked the farm, side by side with Seneca, the farmhand, and their temporary workers. Her skin was a golden brown, and her shoulder-length gray ponytail was gathered together with a rubber band. She probably went to the barbershop instead of Desmond's place. Her face was lined with too much worry for everyone else except herself. Paz wondered if Jerry forgave herself for the choices she had made in her life. As she sat wool gathering, her phone vibrated. It was Torquil. Curiously, she replied, "Hey, Torque, is everything okay?" She could hear him taking a sharp breath. "Oh, hi, Paz. Frankly, I thought I'd just get your voicemail." His voice trailed off. She prompted him in a teasing tone. "What message would you have left?" Taking another sharp breath, he replied, "I would have asked if you wanted to have dinner with me." "Tonight?" she asked quickly. She glanced up and saw that Jerry was at the stove, frying a half a dozen pork chops. She tried to get her mother's attention, but Jerry was daydreaming as she turned the golden chops over. Paz walked over to her, gently touching her shoulder. Once she had Jerry's attention, Paz said into the phone, "Torquil, hang on. Let me call you right back." She looked at her mother, who was in another reality. She was wondering if the chops were ready to be covered with gravy and set to bake. She was wondering about checking the time. She was wondering about setting the table. "Mom," Paz called again. Her mother straightened her back, leveling her gaze at her daughter. "Yes?" I was wondering if I can ask Torquil for dinner. He just asked me out. I think he's kind of lonely now that Jeff's left." Jerry's first inclination was to say no. Then she saw Paz's face. There was an urgency and excitement she recognized. Her daughter's demeanor pulled her back to the present. "Now? Tonight? I mean, it's nothing fancy. We'll be eating in the kitchen. Gramps may get out of hand." Smiling, Paz said, "I think he grew up with a bunch of siblings. He's a regular guy. He'll be pleased to sit in the kitchen again, I'm sure." Sighing, Jerry agreed. "Okay, as long as he knows it's a simple meal." Paz's dinner invitation was grand, just grand, he said to himself as he wondered what he could bring. His mother would know he should bring a gift. She always brought something to eat or drink when they were invited out. He was pretty sure this was the custom here also. Driving past the small downtown area, Torquil noticed business at Worthy's was steady. Parking, he headed in, wondering if they might sell him a dessert. A few minutes later, he walked out with what the owner, who introduced herself as Cora Worthy, said was Sue Reynolds' blackberry pie. Cora confided she had ordered too many pies today. She was glad he was looking for dessert. Casually, she mentioned that he'd give Jerry her regards. Torquil had never lived in a small town. Well, Edinburgh was much smaller than London, but it was a city nonetheless. Like large cities, it had neighborhoods, and he'd grown up in a once glorious Portobello area, which was beginning to look prosperous again. Growing up, the neighborhood had been rough, inexpensive, and full of families. Living in Walkerville was like living in a time capsule and living in a glass house. Everyone knew everyone. That was what Jeff disliked. He never felt comfortable living anywhere where everyone knew his business. Jeff loved the anonymity of London's over 7 million residents. He said he could live next door to someone forever with just a nodding acquaintance. Jeff said there was no way a Walkervillian would let anyone get away with that. Driving up the main street a few miles to Paz's family farm, Torquil made a right turn. As he drove up the long driveway, he was struck by the sparseness of the crops and the shabbiness of the house. With its rickety porch and peeling paint, he didn't know a lot about farming. His father was a plumber, but it was clear that this operation was having financial difficulties. The outbuilding that he could see appeared worn. There didn't seem to be much farm equipment. He wondered what Paz's inheritance could do to restore some freshness and hope. As he got out of his car, he could hear the TV blaring in the front room. He ambled up the front porch steps. The door was open and the screen door was closed. He knocked loudly and waited a few minutes. He tried to open the screen door only to discover it was latched. Cupping his right hand over his right eyebrow, he struggled to look beyond the screen door. He only saw the back of a worn floral print settee and the back of a balding head. The man appeared to be thoroughly enjoying himself as he laughed out loud, pointing at the TV at the other end of the room. As Torkel wondered how else he would get somebody's attention, Jerry came into the room. She put her hand to her chest in surprise as he shouted to make himself heard above the TV. "Hi, Jerry. Thanks for the invitation." She hurried to the door. Unlocking the screen, Jerry flashed a quick smile, then hurried to turn down the TV. The older man protested by flinging himself off the couch onto the floor like an adolescent whose parents had told him no. By that time, Paz had joined the melee. She smiled at Torquil, still standing uncertainly just inside the door. Both she and Jerry noticed he was carrying a Sue Reynolds pie box. "Welcome to the asylum," Paz greeted, her luminous hazel eyes mocking him, daring him to criticize her family. Handing her the pie, he nodded and grinned. "Hi. Reminds me of home. There were 5 of us kids. Everyone fought over the telly, even my parents." Her eyes became animated, her smile genuine. He felt he'd passed a test of sorts. Thanking him for bringing the dessert, she took his arm and led him into the kitchen. Yummy. So that's a little bit more. It's sort of the beginning of Paz and Torkel's relationship. So, what else? I wanted to read a little bit more about the dinner. Clearly, Paz is nervous, Torkel's nervous, Jerry's nervous, and Russell, who is in the early stages of dementia, just wants his dinner, right? Paz said, nodding at the older man, "This is my Gramps, Russell Miyoshi. Tonight's not a good night for him. Sometimes he's still pretty lucid." As if to validate Paz's description, Russell left the table without a word. They heard him clumping up the stairs. Jerry sighed when he heard the door open and close. She got up to clear his plate. Jerry grinned at their guest. "Just a nice, pleasant family dinner, Torkel." Torque pretended to be frantic, looking around the kitchen. "Where's the little brother Matthew who won't eat corn and wants a pudding? Where's the big sister Maisie who won't eat because she says she's getting too fat? And where's my mom who's yelling at everyone to eat up before she tosses us all out on our ears? And where's my dad who's never paying any attention, just goes about eating his meal?" Dismissing Jerry with a wave of his hand, he said, "I have an older brother and two older sisters. I'm next, and there's a younger brother after me. Dad's a plumber, and Mom's a lunch lady at the local school. Meal times were often out of hand. Don't worry about it." Their dinner was casual and enjoyable. Torkel was overjoyed to have a home-cooked meal, and he was more than happy to be with Paz. He also hoped to convey to her mother that his intentions were honorable. Paz made coffee while Jerry searched the freezer for vanilla ice cream. "I think every Walkerville family keeps a spare quart of vanilla ice cream just in case someone brings them a Sue Reynolds pie," Jerry joked as she held up the ice cream. Paz sighed contentedly. "Now I feel like I'm officially home. I can't believe I've been here for almost a month, and this is the first Sue Reynolds pie I've had." Leaning over with his napkin, Torkel wiped a piece of blackberry from Paz's chin. She was taken back by his boldness, then relaxed into the gesture which was intimate and spontaneous. She decided it was okay. He was okay. "So, Sue Reynolds must be some sort of legend around here?" he asked innocently, watching Paz process what he'd just done. Nodding, Paz replied as she scraped her bowl, getting the last of the blackberry pie, ice cream medley that had turned to mush. "Yep, famous. She does this out of her small kitchen. The food inspectors turn a blind eye. She's making pies for, what, Mom, about 12 or 13 years? Jerry nodded. Maybe a little longer, since Ronnie was killed in Afghanistan. Paz filled in the information for Torkel. Ronnie was her husband. They'd only been married for about a year when he went. It's how she coped, how she grieved, and it's a business that she can do that keeps her busy. Oh, Jesus, he muttered, crossing himself. Paz bent over towards him. Are you Catholic? Shaking his head. Nominally. Only when I get this kind of information. I automatically just cross himself. Old habit. Touching his arm, Paz replied wistfully. It's nice. Respectful. Thanks. Jerry was sitting in the kitchen, eating dessert and drinking coffee, enjoying the scenario that was being played out between Paz and Torkel. She smiled to herself, thinking it had been a long time since life had occurred in the kitchen. Everyone had been too busy questioning death, feeling death, grieving, and neglecting to remember that living was the larger part of the equation. Okay, that's it for tonight. And thank you for joining me. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. Bye-bye.